It's your girl, Lady Mocha. Want to thank everybody for tuning in, checking out my videos. Got to give big ups to everyone who's been supporting me. I know y'all are so tired of me saying that. I say it in the beginning of every video, but for real, I have to thank all of the guys who's been supporting me, all of the MVPs, most valuable black princesses who've been looking out for me, representing your girl, just the fact that y'all supporting me and not just looking at the material that I've been delivering to you guys as just something to be offended by, but actually something that you can grow from, something that you can learn from. So I'm glad that many of y'all are using my messages and my material to your advantage. So I'm grateful for that. I'm like this. Even if I can just change one person's way of thinking or one person's way of reasoning, that means a lot to me. You know what I'm saying? So just the fact that I've been getting a lot of my followers just saying, wow, you've given me a new perspective. Wow, you've given me another way of looking at things. Believe me, that means more to me than any amount of dollars that you could put in my pockets. So if I don't change anything, just changing people's perspective is enough for me. But in other news, I want to thank everybody who actually viewed my video with me and my moms. Y'all asked me, and that was what I was requested about. Everybody wanted me to do a commentary on different issues revolving relationships, and I looked out for y'all. I represented. I even brought Mama Mocha on. She poured y'all a cup of her old school knowledge, and I stirred it up with some of my new school knowledge. So that's what we do at Cafe de Paris. We always pouring you a cup of truth. That's how I operate. That's how I roll. But we're going to move forward. I just had to put that out there and thank y'all. I appreciate your love and your support. But we're going to go head on. Tonight, my topic is going to be a whole different spin. We're not talking about men. We're not talking about women. But we damn sure going to talk about these whack-ass workplaces, okay? A lot of y'all been on the same job for too long. A lot of y'all are not growing. A lot of y'all job been dead. The places y'all work at, you've been trying to resuscitate it, and it's been a dead end situations. So I'm going to hit you off with a few signs or a few things that you may need to pay attention to make you realize it may be time for you to leave that dead end job. Stop giving life to dead situations, okay? Starting with these dead end ass jobs, okay? And some of you may not know you had a dead end ass job. So with that being said, I'm going to give you some signs to let you know you are at a dead end job. It's time to leave. It's time to turn in your resignation papers. It's time to let it go. It's time to grow, elevate yourself to the next level, okay? A good seed can't be planted in dirty soil. You feel me? Like Pastor T.D. Jakes would say. So let's move forward for reasons you need to leave your dead end job. Okay, starting with number one. If you've been to that job 5 years or more and there's no growth, it is time to go. What I mean by no growth, there's no growth as far as promotion. There's really no growth in salary, and there's no growth in your skill abilities. Some people have become so complacent with doing a job where they can get away with doing just enough to get a paycheck or just enough to get by. It may seem cool for a while where you go to a job where all you got to do is the same thing every day because it doesn't take you out of your element. Say, for example, you may have a job where all you are is like a janitor or a housekeeper or something, and in that position there's nothing new that you can learn. I mean, think about it. In positions like that, what's gonna be so different about cleaning the toilet or sweeping the floor or cleaning out somebody's refrigerator or something like that? What's the odds of you learning anything new from that type of position? In some positions, you're not going to learn no more than what you are learning. And this is not to knock those who have these kind of positions. Because my thing is this. A job beats no job any day. I don't care if you're working at McDonald's. A paycheck is a paycheck. But this message is for those who know they need to better themselves, who know they've been settling and staying in that box because they fear having to step out there and having to elevate themselves to the next level. This is for what this message is for, okay? So followers, y'all don't need to throw comments like, why are you knocking people who housekeepers? Why are you knocking people who janitors? Why are you knocking people? That is not what I am saying. My thing is, if you know that you are the kind of person, you always are seeking for bigger and better things, this message is for you. If you're okay with what you're doing, then keep doing it. Because my thing is this: long as you good at it, that's all that matters. If you a housekeeper, be a damn good housekeeper. If you a cook at an elementary school cafeteria, be the best damn cook in that elementary school cafeteria. Okay, the thing is, this is for those who know they need to grow and fear growing. And this is what this message is pertaining to, okay? So, as I said with number one, if you've been on a job 5 years or more, and you're in a department where there's no other levels, for example, if you're in a department, and I don't care what you're doing, whether if you're a chef, whether if you're working at a shoe store, whatever position, if that department only has room for an employee and one position in management, the odds of you climbing that ladder is going to be slim to none. It's best to get into a workplace where there's 3 to 4 type of management positions within that one department. That way you have a chance of kind of getting through the door. If you have one of those departments that are very stagnant, where there's only one director, only one manager, and they don't have any type of positions for an assistant manager or a director's assistant, that is only 2 upper management positions available within our whole department, you already know the odds of you climbing a ladder is slim to none. I worked in a department where I was doing security, and to be honest, there was no room for growth. They only had one manager. It was like five to 6 officers. There was only one manager, and then there was one director. That was it. That was it. So what was the odds of the 5 or 6 officers becoming a manager or a director? Slim to none. It's basic common sense. Don't go in a workplace where you see it's a lot of damn Indians, but it's very little chiefs, because the odds of you becoming a chief is going to be slim to none. They're going to keep you right in that bottom scale. So look out for stuff like that. Pay attention to things like that. See what kind of positions they have available within the department as a whole, so that way you know if you stand a chance of ever being promoted or getting to the next level. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, number 2, this is another sign that you're at a dead-end job. When you see there are too many good employees quitting or getting terminated, while there are other employees that are basically what I would say unprofessional employees, bad attitudes, disrespectful to co-workers, come to work with like I said, with attitudes, always in a bad mood. Yet them kind of employees always stick around. You notice some jobs, they never get rid of the employees that don't do a damn thing. They are faithful to those ones. Matter of fact, those are the ones who they give the most days off. Those are the ones who they never write up. Those are the ones who do a lot of stuff and they slide underneath the rug. But for the good employees who really work their butts off and come in on time, always going above and beyond, the employees who really know their job and who really do their job, them the ones who make one slip up and they have no mercy on them kind of employees. If you work for a job or a place of business like that, you definitely don't want to be there, because what's going to happen is the moment you make a mistake, or you missing a slip, and you may have a situation where you miss and don't come in on time, even though you've been there on time throughout the whole all year round, but the 1 or 2 times you missing coming late because you overslept or something like that, they're quick to write you up. While they got sorry Sam, who comes in late all the time, always calls in. He's been there over a year and he's been doing it over a year, yet they never rolled him up, yet he never got any trouble. That's a sign that you need to leave that kind of job. You don't need to be to a job where you constantly seeing good employees getting terminated over foolishness, while the unprofessional employees keep getting a slap on the wrist. You don't want to work for a job like that. If you're seeing too much of that happening within the workplace that you're working for, you might want to reconsider and start looking into some other things, okay? Because that's not a good sign. Because jobs like that, they have an issue with favoritism, which brings me to my third point. Too much favoritism. You do not want to work for a company or a business that has too much favoritism, and I'm gonna tell you why. A lot of these jobs got just as much cliques as church. Just like when you go into church, there's cliques in these churches. You may have everybody in the church, all the members that on the usher board, only they are fellowshipping with one another. Everybody who's cool with first lady, or who's always going above and beyond for first lady and got a tighter bond with first lady. You see all the first lady buddies, they in their own clique, okay? Then those on the choir, they all in their own clique. It's so much division. That's the same way with working with certain employees. When you see too many cliques within a place of business or a place of employment, that's a warning sign, because what that means is they have already started building bonds with certain individual, which means that in the event you have a problem or an issue with somebody within that clique that is close to somebody in upper management, like the executive director or the director or the CEO, you better watch out, honey. When you dealing with these cliques in these workplaces, and the moment you have an issue with somebody within that clique, 9 times out of 10 they're going to go back and let everybody else know within that circle that they have an issue with you. So what's going to happen is the clique is going to start already looking at you a certain way, perceiving you a certain way. They're already going to have a label for you, all because you had an issue with just one person within that clique. And if you want my personal opinion, that is totally unfair, and that's totally unbiased, that one person in a group can have that much power or that much influence where they can just go and tell 5 or 6 other people. They can already give them their own perception as to how they feel about you based on one little incident or one misunderstanding. You have to be very careful when you deal with jobs that operate like this, okay? Because what's going to happen is, no matter how good you try to do, no matter how much effort you put in trying to keep your job, people have already labeled you based off of one person's perspective that happens to be cool with the executive director, that happens to be cool with the director. And that's a very sticky situation to get into. And unfortunately, favoritism has caused a lot of people to lose their jobs. You know, the other issue with favoritism is when you work in a certain workplace and you see that they are bending rules for some employees, and for others they're not bending rules. You don't want to work for a place like that. This is what I mean by example. Say in your policy handbook, they have all kind of policies for what you can and cannot do as an employee, okay? So the moment you violate or you break one of those rules, they automatically write you up or they automatically terminate you. They spare you no mercy. They spare you no chances. It's done deal, stick a fork in it. They evict you. They throw you right on out like you 3 months behind on your rent. They don't have no mercy on you. Now, on the other hand, there's other employees who have also violated those companies' policies and procedures, yet they spare them, or they could have done something 20 times worse than what you did. They swept it right up under the rug. They looked out for that employee and said, okay, we're going to wipe our hands clean. We're not going to mention this to anybody. We're just going to let you collect $200, pass and go, and we're not going to say a word. You do not want to work for a company like that. Okay, you don't want to work for a company that will penalize certain employees but won't penalize other employees, because what's going on is you're dealing with politics, you're dealing with favoritism. Okay, because my thing is this: even the best employees, okay, we get into situations that have nothing to do with our jobs, but it could affect our jobs. For example, you could be a bomb ass secretary, or a very professional executive manager or whatever, but one Saturday night you probably went out, got drunk, had some drink with your buddies, whatever, had one too many, got pulled over, DUI or whatever, and you gotta have a lot of workplaces. They will tell you that if you get in any trouble outside of the job, that you ought to report it. And let's just say we human. When you out having a good time, you're not thinking about your job, but things happen. In other words, you need room to be human. You need room to make mistakes. And if you have a job that's willing to penalize you the moment, now this is different if this is something you're constantly doing and you've constantly been forewarned and you still can't get it together. But for the most part, you're a good employee and you slipped and you made a mistake. It was a one-time thing, not something you normally do. It gets into the wrong person's ears on that job, and depending on who it is, if that person don't like you, they will see to it that you get up out of there. That's how bad these workplaces are. A lot of these places of business supposed to be professional, a lot of them are so cutthroat. It's sad, but I've learned from personal experience that a lot of these jobs, they wait for you to fail. It's unfortunate that they look for more bad coming from you than they look for more good coming from you. In other words, they slipping and waiting for you to make a mistake. They look for any little reason to try to terminate you or get rid of you. Now, I can understand that there's some things, on the other hand, that should not be ignored. Certain crimes or certain things you do outside of the job, whether if it's job related or not, a job shouldn't take lightly. Like if you're around here molesting children, or if you killed somebody drinking and driving, that's something that, if somebody's life was taken, that's something that a job shouldn't take lightly, whether if it happened on the job or outside the job, because that just simply displays your character. Things of that nature just shows that you have issues that's far beyond that a job don't need to take any chances with, especially if they have a brand and they have a brand that they have to market. But you have some jobs, they wait for any little mediocre thing to have a reason to try to terminate you. And it's unfortunate that you have jobs that they don't have they don't have policies and procedures that makes them consider things before they just automatically drop the hammer on you. If you have an employee, for the most part, that's been dedicated, loyal, always been on time, you never had to come to them more than one time to do their job, and if this employee slips and make a mistake, that's something that just may be considered as a simple write-up or warning. Every action doesn't necessarily require a termination. Certain things, as long as it's not a danger to the company or a threat, to the business, certain things could be overlooked. But when favoritism comes into play, you're not spared. Certain employees are not spared the same amount of mercy as other employees are. If you're in a place of business that operates like that, you definitely want to look for something else, because you're not perfect. You know what I'm saying? So okay, so on that note, you just want to be very careful jobs that have favoritism and too many politics. You don't want to deal with jobs like that. Now, this is another major concern for me. You do not want to work for a department that has weak management. The reason this one stands out to me the most is because the manager sets the tone for how the whole department operates. The management is like the mama or the daddy of the family. They practically are the ones who get to kind of call the shots as to how things should go and what need. They basically have the authority to implement a lot of changes. Okay, when you have a weak manager that would rather kiss ass than to really stand up for their department and say, you know what, I'm not going to have my employees do that. I'm not going to change this rule. It's been working for us for 15, 20 years. If it's not broke, we don't need to fix it. When you have managers that have a backbone, that's the only way your department is going to grow and succeed. That is the only way you're going to be able to keep your job with no problems. If you have a strong manager that's no nonsense, that's not so fretful of keeping their position, that whatever the directors or whatever the executive directors say, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. When you have managers like that, you will not, it's going to come a point you're going to hate your job, because when you have a manager that's so concerned with just trying to stay in the good graces of the upper management versus what's reasonable and what's fair for the employees that work underneath him or her, you're going to be miserable, because every time you turn around, she's going to keep changing rules, or he's going to keep changing rules based on what upper management has to say. And the only thing that bothers me about upper management, and I understand executive directors and CEOs, and they have very significant roles, so they have to make decisions that are going to better the company, that are going to better the brand. But what bothers me about people who have these type of titles is the problem is they cannot relate to the ones on the bottom. So it's easy for them to change rules and just change, make all these unnecessary changes, and not take into consideration how it's going to affect those that have to deal with the changes directly, because they're not the ones that have to deal with it. It's kind of like being a teacher, and you're the teacher of a classroom. You run the whole class, and basically, you telling your students, okay, in order to pass this class, you have to make 100 or more. When it used to be, all you had to do was make at least a 70. Okay, and they just abruptly come to you out the blue. You, as a teacher, you abruptly go to your students and you tell them this. You don't give them time to prepare for the change. You don't give them time to transition for the change. You just decide today, okay, yeah, I know for the last 6-7 years, all you had to do was at least make a 70 to pass this class. But now, starting today, you got to make 100. Do you know how that's going to devastate some students? Especially the ones who are already kind of struggling just to pass the class, and you out the blue, you don't give them time to prepare. You don't say, okay, just let y'all know within a year or within 6 months, we're going to start working towards changing the grading policy. That's how it is with these jobs. That's what happens when you have weak management. When you have a weak manager that's more concerned with their title and more concerned with being in the good graces of upper management, you're going to fail. You're going to fail, because as an employee you will, because once you have gotten accustomed to things being a certain way, and you get into the groove of what's expected of you and how to go about it, and you have this kiss ass, excuse my French, but basically you got this manager who wants to suck up and be in the good graces of the upper management. She does not care what rules they change that's basically going to impact and affect the little people. Okay, so be very careful with weak management. If you got a weak manager that's a yes, 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 yes person that will not stand for you as an employee, will not stand for the department as a whole, you better run like your jaws is on fire. You do not want weak management being over you, okay? Because you'll never have a say so, and your feelings will never be taken into consideration because you have a weak manager that's more concerned with what's in the best interest of upper management and less concerned with what's in the best interest of you as an employee. So stay away from jobs that allows weak managers to be an authority over you. The next one is when they make policies that are only meant to change employees but never meant to change management. I can't tell you, I have the biggest problem with this. You have so many companies that are more concerned with trying to keep their employees in check that they are failing to keep the managers in check. And this is really unfair, because the thing of the matter is this: as in employees, you do have to keep in mind that changes happen constantly and consistently. That's just all a part of being in the working world. You're gonna have to deal with changes from time to time. Nothing ever stays the same. That's a good thing sometimes, that things don't stay the same, and it can be a bad thing too. But my thing is, we have too many jobs that are more concerned with trying to change the employees than the managers. A lot of these corporate businesses are not understanding, and these big time CEOs and all these executive directors is that they managers need more training than employees. Some of these managers do not know how to talk to their employees. Some of these managers they lack professionalism. They don't know how to not abuse their authority. I just really feel that if a lot of companies started making managers, started training them with hospitality skills, with how to talk to employees, with how to respect employees, with how to be fair with all of the employees, I think most businesses will be much more successful than what they are. But the problem is too many companies, they just want the employees to bend. But what they're not realizing is, if the head is messed up, the tail don't stand a chance. So in other words, I'm like this: if you chop my head off my body, the rest of my body is not going to function, because my head is the main or part of my body that makes the rest of me function. And that is the same way management works. If the head is screwed up, which means the manager, executive director, supervisor, if they don't have it together, the employees don't stand a chance. It don't matter how good the employees are. If the manager is sloppy, unprofessional, and can't handle his or her business, the employees are in trouble. But what's upsets me about a lot of these companies, they don't really evaluate these managers. They don't really evaluate those in upper management. They really won't sit down with their employees and survey them and say, okay, do you feel your manager is trustworthy? Do you feel your manager is professional? Who would know it better than those who have to work underneath them? These executive directors, they'll never know that. They don't have to work underneath them. They'll only see them in a meeting, once or twice out a month, if that. Anybody could put on a smiling face like, oh, I'm this professional manager and I'm doing great. I got my department going good. Anybody could put up a front. But if these big time CEOs and executive directors really sat down and spoke with these employees, they would hear all kind of stories that they wouldn't even believe. Yeah, my manager, she's not trustworthy because when I tell her certain information, she goes back and she tells other employees. My manager, she uses a lot of profanities. See, a lot of these high top-notch positions, they do not know how sloppy these directors, these managers, and these other upper management positions right underneath them are. They have no clue, and they don't care because it does not affect them. When you're sitting in the big chair, what the hell do you care about those who are sitting on the bleachers? I mean, but what these top-notch, executives and CEOs don't understand is, if they are not concerned about those on lower management and about their employees, sooner or later it's going to dismantle their brand, because your Indians is what's keeping it going. That's what's helping your company to grow. It's not just you and your big CEO or your executive director, whatever title you got. They're not understanding. They're not the ones making it happen by themselves. It's the little people, you know what I'm saying, that's doing the hard work, So as long as they keep overlooking the employees and overlooking these sloppy ass, managers that are unprofessional. Some of them, believe it or not, a lot of them aren't even qualified for the job. A lot of them, you would go to you may go on Indeed.com and go on these other job sites, look for a job, and they'll tell you all these qualifications you have to have as a manager or a supervisor. Half of them ain't got that. I know some positions that required management to have a master's or at least a bachelor's, and I knew the help for that got it. She didn't even have a high school diploma. Okay, so my thing is, these big time companies, they need to start looking at these unprofessional, underqualified managers who they are trusting to be over the employees. Okay, so stay away from jobs that are like that are only enforcing policies and procedures for employees, but they're not doing it for the managers. If you see jobs where managers are constantly bending the rules, constantly violating, getting away with being disrespectful to employees, and they're not getting penalized for it, they're not even getting investigated for it, run for the hills. Do not stay on that job. I'm telling you, that's a dead-end job. You don't even want to deal with that. Next thing is fakeness. That when you see there's a job where there's too much backstabbing in the workplace, you don't want to be there. Because sometimes you think you can play it safe by staying out the mix, not getting involved. And in some cases, it really does work. But in other cases, it doesn't always work either, because sometimes when you try to stay out the mix, you still become a target, because people don't know nothing about you. They'll still try to target you just to try to get into your head, just to try to get into how you think or what kind of person you are. When you see a job with too much backstabbing and there's too much cutthroatness going on, that's a job you may want to reconsider leaving, because eventually what happens is, with those kind of jobs, what I notice, they always take turns. They never, even those who try, it's kind of like being in high school. Remember back in the high school days, and you knew that one clique that always bullied certain students, and you would try your best to avoid them. You knew once you went into that cafeteria. I remember when I was in high school, I would never go into the cafeteria in the morning, because it was a group of girls that waited for someone to come into the cafeteria when it was breakfast time, before the bell rung, and they just intentionally all gathered at that table just to see what you was going to wear. And if you want some Payless kicks, or if you want some Goodwill gear or whatever, they would just like have a laughing field day with you as soon as you came into that cafeteria. So because I feared that, because I knew I didn't have as much as all the other kids had, I never entered that cafeteria. Many times I wanted breakfast, I wouldn't even go get breakfast, because I knew once I walked in that door, those bully girls were waiting to see what I had on, and they was going to tease me, So, and that's the same thing with being in the workplace. You could try to avoid staying out the drama all you want, but sooner or later, they're going to bring the drama to you. You have some workplaces that are just cemented with drama. If you go on a job and you see too much backstabbing, you see the management talking about another manager, and then come lunchtime, you see them sitting at the same table together, acting like they the best of buddies. I mean, when you start seeing too much fakery and uckery going on, you might need to reconsider. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be in a place like that's unprofessional. There's a lot of backstabbing, because eventually it's going to be your turn. I don't care how safe you try to play it. So you don't want to deal with them type of places. And another sign that you may need to reconsider looking for another job is when they're underpaying but overworking. Let's face it, you have jobs out here that are paying pennies, yet they have so much demands, they got so much expectations, and very rarely are you going to get the salary or the recognition that you truly deserve. If you're working for this type of place, eventually you're going to get frustrated. And the sad part is, these jobs, you have some places or businesses that they are so used to losing people, it doesn't even bother them. It's like, it's kind of like working in a correctional facility and you're a prison guard. You so used to seeing people come back, and and you so used to seeing people being released, the same people being released and coming back. After a while, it don't even faze you. It's like, okay, he did 20 years, only been out for 5-6 months, and he back. I mean, you see so much of that when you work in a facility like that, it don't even bother you. That's how it operates with a lot of these jobs. They are so used to losing good employees, it don't even matter to them. They will replace them like a new pair of Jordans. Like, it's just nothing. But yet they overwork and the mess out of those who are being consistent, who are fighting to hang in there. Those are the ones who catch the most hell, because while all of these people are coming and going, and these people are not sticking and staying, unfortunately, it starts to hinder those who really are hanging in there. It's like working in a department and people keep coming and going. Guess what? That work still got to be done. It don't matter how many people are quitting, how many people got to get fired. Work got to be done. Who's going to catch the heat? The most dedicated employees. That's just how it is. They're going to overwork you to death. As long as you staying in the place of business where the people are constantly getting fired or people are constantly quitting, you gonna catch the heat. And guess what? The big chief don't care, because you just the Indian. The big chief is sitting in their seat. They ain't got to feel the wrath like you feeling it. You know what I'm saying? So it's up to you, you know what I'm saying, to get to that point to say, oh no, it's just too many people coming and going, and it's becoming a load on me. Because hell, somebody gonna have to make up for the miles. I don't care who quit or who get fired. If you there, trust and believe, you're gonna be the one that's gonna have to clean up all of that company's mess. Okay, so you want to stay away from jobs that do that. And this is my second to last point. Management abusing authority. And when I say management, I'm not just talking about management. That's for anybody that has a high position, whether you're a supervisor, an executive director, CEO, whatever title you have. What people have to understand is, just because you have a title, that does not mean you have the right to demean people, disrespect people, and talk to grown folks like they are children. Okay? And a lot of these people that have these titles, they don't understand that you have some people out there that's just not going to take your nonsense. And I hate to say this, and I apologize if I'm offending anybody that this has personally happened to, but that's why you get people who come to these jobs and they start shooting up everybody, shooting, they done got fired, come back on the job to retaliate, and shooting up everybody, shooting up people who ain't even had to do with it, because they done took so much crap off of that job, so much abuse off of management, talking to them nasty, treating people all kind of way. Everybody can't handle that. You got some people that could block it, like my husband. He's a professional like that. I don't care. You can't really stir him up. He's the total opposite. I'm like night and day. I'm trying to control that ticking time bomb syndrome, like I told y'all before. So everybody doesn't take it lightly when they're being disrespected. You have people with these titles that feel like they're invincible and they have the right to talk to people like children. I've seen managers use profanity. I've seen them call employees names. I have seen managers and directors scold their employees like children. I have seen grown men and women cry behind closed doors, all because of how management talks to them and treats them in front of other people. You know what I'm saying? You want to stay away from jobs where they allow those with titles of authority to get away with disrespecting employees, okay? Because eventually they're going to do it with you, because what has happened is they never gotten penalized for it. They've never been punished for it. There's been no consequence. Anytime you deal with a person that's been able to get away with things and no consequence, you know what's going to happen? They're just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse till they piss the wrong person off and somebody goes postal, come up in there and wants to shoot up. Now you want to take it serious. Now that there's grieving families. Oh, well, Joe, he seemed like such a nice guy. He seemed like such a humble guy. I never even seen that in his character, that he would do something like that. You got all kind of ticking time bombs that these managers are provoking, and they don't understand that until it hits close to home. You don't want to be a part of a job that a manager is able to get away with abusing their authority, because eventually they're going to abuse you, or they're going to abuse the wrong person, and eventually that person may snap and take it out on everybody, including you that didn't have nothing to do with it. Stay away from that. And last but not least, step out on faith. When I say God is an awesome God, He knows where to place you. He knows when it's time for you to move. Sometimes, a lot of us, we fear having to go out there and start all over. We fear, it's like being in a marriage. You've been in a marriage for 10, 15, 16 years and you know it's not a healthy marriage, but you fear having to go out there and start all over and relearn something new. So you rather just stay here because it's safe. Let me tell you something. The familiar ain't always good. Just because that's all you know, that don't mean that's the best thing for you. Sometimes you have to step out on faith and do bigger and better things. Like Pastor T.D. Jakes was saying, good seed cannot grow in dead soil. Some of y'all are on dead end ass jobs. You know it's not going to change, but you are more concerned with your paycheck than you are with your peace of mind. And let me tell you something. I had a job that was paying me really awesome. The money was great. And even with all of that, I was very, I almost felt like I was in an abusive relationship with my job. I almost felt like I was with an abusive husband, because there was so many times I felt like I had to really watch my back, and I felt like I had to be perfect all the time, because I knew how cutthroat that particular workplace was. And I knew that if I slipped on anything, it could be it for me. And just to let all of you guys know that, keep in mind that sometimes when your time is up with certain things, God is going to see to it that your time is up anyway, no matter how hard you try to fight or how hard you try to hang in there. So sometimes, when God sees that we don't have the strength to move forward or to leave situations that are not healthy for us, what He will do, He will intentionally allow things to happen where you have no choice but to leave. And that's what ended up happening in my case. I didn't lose the job because I was a bad employee. I didn't lose the job because I disrespected somebody and I wasn't on time. Just God put me in a situation where I had no choice but to surrender. And sometimes, what the devil meant for harm, God means for good. So with all the signs that I have given all of you, keep in mind, if you are experiencing any of these, you know, I understand you got light bills, you got kids to feed, you got things to do. Now, I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow. Use wisdom. Don't share my video and tell everybody I'm gonna quit my job tomorrow. What I'm saying is, it is time to shift gears. Hang in there where you are, where you at, but it's time to start looking into other things. It's time to start preparing to make other changes. If you don't change it, it's never going to change. It takes you to change it. Don't look for somebody to knock on the door and say, hey, I got a change for you. Do you want it? No, you're going to have to change the situation yourself. Okay, so on that note, I'm going into 45 minutes. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Cafe de Paris. It is your girl, Lady Mocha. You know, I'm always pouring you a cup of truth, and I'm always breaking you off a slice of knowledge. Share this video. If you know somebody who needs to make a decision, that they're on a dead end job, but they can't make their minds up, maybe this video will give them the answer they need. So like, subscribe, share, and all of y'all been awesome doing that. My fan base is over 1,000 now, so I thank y'all. And you know what, I ain't even getting paid for it, but God is good. Y'all have an awesome one, and it's your girl, Lady Mocha, signing off.